Hey folks, welcome back to SC Haulers. I'm Sacks of Wine, and yesterday Star Citizen 4.2 dropped, and while everyone else is chasing the missile buffs and new gunships, we're digging into the real changes, the ones that matter to miners, haulers, salvagers, and logistic nerds just like us. Now, at first glance, it might seem like 4.2 didn't do much for industry, and yeah, if you're running cargo or salvage op, there's not a flashy new system waiting for you, but under the hood, there's a surprising number of updates that affect how we fly, how we mine, and how we move cargo, especially if you're working in rough atmospheres or trying the new activity at the Lazarus testing site in Pyro. So this video is going to break down the meaningful industry changes in 4.2, from ATLS improvements to why the new flight turbulence might just ruin your next mining op if you're not careful. So we're going to start with the ATLS series and go over how that transforms cargo hauling for us. Now, I remember when they mentioned that they were going to allow us to bring up the ATLS series up the freight elevator, and I was super excited about it. So let's go over that real quick. And again, if you didn't see it, this is how you do it. All you need to do is have your ATLS delivered to the station that you're at. Do not pull it up through the normal means through the ASOP terminal. You just get it delivered or claim it to the station you're at, and then you will call it up through the freight elevator. You should see it when the freight manager loads completely. You should see that icon on the right hand side of what's in your inventory, and then you should just be able to drag it over or move to elevator button and bring it up through the freight manager. Now, this was a super exciting time for me because we had been waiting for this. This is like the first step of us being able to call all vehicles through the freight elevator. Well, all vehicles that fit anyways. That being said, I was doing another video where I wanted to test the raft and its capabilities, and I was using the ATLS to load up cargo. I was experiencing a bug with the ATLS, so I was using it with a max lift, and then what do I know? The freaking ATLS attached to the raft. It wasn't in the patch notes, and it wasn't until 2 days later when the patch watch released that they finally said, yeah, this is a feature. So I am super excited. You can attach the ATLS, all of the ATLS series, to the cargo grid of any ship that you would like. Now, I've not been able to successfully do this with the onboard tractor beam very often. There's some kind of interaction between the onboard tractor beam and the ATLS that is not letting it function properly, but you can do it with a max lift. Now, the next changes I want to talk about are from Wikelo, and Wikelo is a pain in the butt. I really wish they would change the Wikelo system in general. Like, why does it use missions? Why can't you just like implement the merit system from prison? Why can't you do like a shop or kiosk that uses these different items for currency or whatever, right? Like, why does it have to be a mission? It's such a pain in the butt. But I digress. I'm going on a rant. I would like to mention that one of the changes that they made with Wikelo, and this was a big community complaint, a complaint I made myself as well, is every patch we've gone through, they've made previous currencies for favors worthless, just completely worthless. And that obviously that's not 100% right. Like, you can still use Karenite for particular armors that were relevant during that patch, like the Anna armor, for instance. But now they have rolled back that, so now you can trade your council scripts, your merc scripts, your Karenite for favors once again, as well as the new Valakar pearls or fangs, whichever one it is. Another thing that they changed with Wikelo is there was an issue where, and I don't know if it was an issue or intentional design, but only one person on your entire shard could accept a merc script favor turn-in. I'm fairly certain this was the same with the Karenite as well, like when you were converting Karenite into favors. And it probably wasn't that big of an issue because a line in mine at the time was considered an org activity, so a lot of players were not doing it. But MG scripts were more accessible, and so you had a lot more community members complaining that only one person was able to accept a mission on a shard. So now you have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 players trying to get one MG script council favor turn in, and they can't because they're fighting one other player. And then you got other players who are accepting missions and just abandoning them because it's not at the station that they want. Or you got other players collecting all the missions as soon as they pop up. It's just like they're out doing bounty hunting missions and then they're just collecting other missions on top of it. Either way, I'm ranting. They potentially fix this. So hopefully if you are turning in scripts for favors or Care Knight for favors, you should not be fighting one individual for that mission. That being said, the key point of this is this makes a line of mine relevant again to a degree. If you're into Wikelo collecting stuff, then a line of mine is going to be a spot that you may want to stop at. So the next thing I want to talk about is flight turbulence. And you can see like we're in the mole and we're just hanging out in the hangar, just waiting for it to open. And look how much this thing sways. And I'll put the thrusters downward, turn VTOL on, and still it just does nothing for the swaying that's happening on the mole. And this is going to be a very important feature for all of us miners, and even for those of you who are salvaging, like on planetary surfaces. I've noticed that in gravity, high gravity areas, this effect is quite bad. So for all my miners that are in Pyro, mining on Pyro 4 or Pyro 5, or not Pyro 5 specifically, but the moons around Pyro 5, this is probably going to hit you the most. For those of you that are mining Quantanium, primarily on Selin or on Walla, Lyria, one of those planets that have a low gravity in Stanton, this is going to be not as bad to deal with. And I will show you here. So while we're looking, oh, and there looks like there's some rocks there, but I wanted to show you the new UI for scanning. And what you can see here, you still have your signature and your compass here at the top. You still have your altimeter on the right. Now you have these two things here. You have your scan angle, which if you've noticed, it is only a 90 degrees. You can still adjust this with your mouse wheel. So up, scrolling up will lower that to 2%. Oops, I turned it off. And that will only scan in a 2% angle directly in front of you. So we go a little bit more, scan, and now it's at a 22% angle. You can see that stuff popping up. We'll go back to 90, and bam, there you go. So this on the right-hand side is the signal strength. And with mining, I've noticed that the signal strength is always going to be strong with mining nodes. And so this may only really affect your ship combat and stuff like that. Maybe salvagers. I need to test this further. But I've always had it where it says strong anytime I'm looking at a mining node, just in general. When it comes to mining mode, period, there have been no changes to this. Scanning is not affected, or the UI is not affected here. And so you're not going to notice any changes really. So we're going to scan this rock here, which it's already, wow, that was quick. But I want to show you the sway that is happening from the thrusters. And we'll get closer to, let me level out a little bit. So we're on Selin, and notice the ship in low gravity is not swaying as much from that new thruster change. It is still slightly there. The ship is moving ever so slightly. It almost looks like it's breathing, and so it's just moving slightly up, slightly down. That's ridiculous. Now I'm going to have to make a video on how to crack a 60k rock for that guy. That aside, before we move into the next section, the new scanning mode changes nothing with the mining HUD. So just keep that in mind. It's just for scanning, and that's it. So let's move on to the refinery. This is where I think crafting is going to be in sooner than later. So what they just did with the refinery, it wasn't a huge change. Look at all this ore this guy has. Dang, bro, give me some of that ore. Moving on. So you can see here I got a couple orders already, but the big piece of this is that they reduced refinery order time. So with my 42 SEU of Quantanium, where normally with the Ferron exchange, this would take about 17 to 23 hours-ish. Now it's reduced to 8 hours. Pyrometric is down to 4 hours. Yada, yada, yada. Time has been reduced significantly. Now I say that this is like the building blocks to crafting being released sooner than later. Honestly, I think the Galaxy is going to be released, and then crafting will be shortly after that. All these refinery changes are pointing towards a release of crafting in some sorts. And then you have the handyman missions for engineering, and it's all starting to come together. And I think probably right before Squadron 42 releases, we'll see a huge crafting update. But that's it about the refinery. They just reduced the refinery times. Nothing else has changed about the refinery since 4.1.1. So we're going to move on to the next piece, and this is for our cargo haulers. This one's kind of been up in debate for quite a few people, myself included. But I think it has a place in the verse now, and it's specifically for the 4.2 patch. Now, I haven't done any content for the Lazarus testing site since 4.2 went live, but we are going to talk about the Esperia Prowler Utility. I have a lot of opinions on this ship, but I'm just going to leave those to the side, and let's talk about its uses. So for the Apex Valacar, you have to mine the fangs and the pearls out of the Valacar and then manually extract them. They are large enough you can't put them in your backpack. So there is a freight elevator at the location that you can send the fangs down. You go back to a tram station and you can pick the fangs up. And then you have to load them onto a ship. So that is where the Prowler Utility comes into play. And I bring up why it comes into play. Yesterday, I spent maybe 10 minutes at one of these locations, at a tram location. And there was an Idris there just blowing up every ship on the ground, just lasering every single ship. So if you can get the Prowler Utility in there, the stealth, just stealth it out, go max stealth that you can, and then fly in there. Once your homies are ready, all you got to do is just open up the belly, let them slap it onto your grid, or your co-pilot slap it onto the grid, and then you're good to go. Normal cargo hauling, this ship is not it. I do not recommend this for regular cargo hauling. One of the complaints I had about this ship originally is that the cross section was so high that even if you wanted to be stealthy, you wouldn't be able to, because it was set at 10.2, which at the end of the day is not very high compared to other ships. But if it's a designated stealth ship, then it needs to have a lower cross section. I mean, the Vulture had a lower cross section, and it's not even a stealth ship. It's a salvage ship. It should be higher, period. But that being said, both Prowlers have been fixed, and their cross sections have been reduced by 50%. Oh, the Prowler. Alien tax. That's all I'll say. But I am super excited about 4.2, and these changes are super small. There's nothing game-breaking about them, but they are very useful and a step in the right direction of where we want Star Citizen overall. I wish there wasn't an alien tax, but I digress. What are some of your favorite parts of 4.2? What are you looking forward to getting into this weekend? It's the first weekend of 4.2. So with 4.2 being out, Tell me in the comments down below what you think about 4.2, how you feel about different changes in the patch, and what you're looking forward to in the future. I am Sax of Wine with SE Haulers. Love you, bye.